but we don't really get down to what exactly inflammation is and how it's keeping you from living the best possible life. And there's so much science out there that's backing up how bad inflammation is, but nobody's putting it in front of us. And the biggest reason is because food lobbyists and big agriculture don't want us to know how bad inflammation is, and they don't want us to know what causes it, because then they wouldn't be making money. But the fact is, it's hurting us. It's hurting our weight loss. It's hurting us with disease. And it's flat out making it so we don't feel like ourselves anymore. But before I go a whole lot further, let me tell you a little bit of my story really quick and why you should hear me out on this. I was 280 pounds working a corporate healthcare job. I was borderline diabetic. I had acid reflux. I was hypertensive, and my liver enzymes were through the roof. But the worst of all of it is I felt like total garbage because I used to be an athlete, and here I was sitting at a desk job weighing 280 pounds, thinking that I was doing all the right things, thinking I was eating all the right foods, but not being able to lose a pound and not being able to kick my ailments. I was in the healthcare industry, so I was immersed in so much science. So it finally occurred to me one day that I need to dive in to studying inflammation. So I took my resources within the healthcare industry and I started looking at inflammation. I started looking about how it worked within the body. And I started realizing that simply inflammation on its own could be what was holding me back. And I started addressing things, and I ultimately found that there was one food that I was eating a lot of that was triggering an immune response within my body, making it hard for me to ultimately lose weight. So I fixed that issue, and the weight did really start to fall off. I mean, it wasn't the be-all, end-all, but it definitely was what kick-started me down the right path. I'll get into more of that in just a moment, but I want to talk about how genetically modified foods and how pesticides, preservatives, and other foods that we are eating so much of are actually making it so that we can't lose weight and causing dramatic amounts of inflammation. So I want to dive into what exactly inflammation is. Inflammation is just like when you get stung by a bee. So let's say you get stung by a bee on your arm. It gets red, it gets swollen, and it becomes inflamed. Well, that's something called acute inflammation. And that happens usually abruptly and